Hello folks, welcome to the UK Games Expo live stream. How are you doing, my friends? I'm looking for some chat. I see some folks already are like, no, I'm ready for this. I'm excited. My name is Millie. I am your host for today. I'm joined by UK Games Expo marketing manager Kate. How the devil are you, Kate? Oh, excitement. And we have a new friend here today. It's Ryan from Warchief Gaming. How's it going, Ryan? Yeah, very, very big thanks for you to join us, because it's like 4 a.m. where you are right now. Yes.
Either side have to be either late night telly or terribly early morning, depending.
I took a 2-hour nap, and I will go immediately back to bed after this.
Oh, nice.
That's smart.
Nice.
Yeah.
Smart man.
You know, it's never a true live stream unless you have a little bit of an error.
Right.
Because of some of the driver updates we were discussing before, I had a slight problem where everybody didn't hear you say hello, Ryan. So say hello to everybody.
Oh, hello. Hey.
There we
Sorry
go.
about that.
No, that's me. That's all on me. I do apologize. But it wouldn't be a live stream without a small technical glitch. And that was it.
Sure.
It happened at the beginning. We're done.
It's out of the way. It doesn't, no more. Never again.
It's all good. So we were just chatting. It's about 4 a.m. where you are, Ryan, and you're gonna you've gotten up a phenomenally early time to tell us about everything.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. This will be fun. I'm very excited to chat about it.
Cool. So first up, I think folks can just see. I know you've got like a blur going on in the background, but that looks like a lot of paints.
That looks like a lot of paint.
Yes, it is a lot of paints. So I paint a lot. I paint models. I paint Warhammer specifically,
Awesome.
among many other things. I think your fans are probably very familiar with that.
Yeah.
So I have my Crimson Fist Space Marines right here. One of them
Hey,
I've been painting.
awesome.
So I've been painting this army for 10 plus, like 15 plus years. It's my favorite. So I go on and off. I also, I print and I 3D print and paint like fantasy models and things like that. Which we'll talk about later because we're doing those as part of our Kickstarter, and I actually have one of them here, but I kind of broke him, so I don't want to show him off too closely because I dropped him. And his sword, yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah, I have cats, you know how it is.
Yeah.
So I'm a big hobbyist. Warchief actually started as a gaming club.
Oh wow.
So yeah, the whole reason I'm here. Is that a friend of mine on the team I worked on before? I worked on a video game called Hearthstone by Blizzard. So it's a digital card game. And
Ryan, I think most folks know what Hearthstone is.
Yeah.
Well,
That's super.
just a
He's
little.
like casually drop it in there. Oh yeah, it's just it's like a little card game thing. I mean,
maybe you've heard of
it. On Hearthstone.
So I was a game designer on Hearthstone, and I had a friend on that team named Atesh who actually worked with us on Ouroborus, and I was just getting back into Warhammer again. I hadn't played in 8 years or so, and he's like, "Oh, there's this gaming club. You should come check it out. Like, I'm a member of it. Like, you seem cool." I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like, yeah, it has an actual location here in town, which in the United States is very rare. Like gaming clubs are more common, I think, in the UK actually. Like people will have an actual place to go, like maybe they rent a space or it's a community space, things like that. Very rare here. It's usually somebody's just garage. So it was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing! In Southern California, there's a gaming club. What is that? So became a member of it. Had started playing there, and yeah, Chris and Mike had built up this space that they had rented a warehouse. They had tons of gaming tables, lots of terrain. So I was just catapulted back into the hobby of wargaming. I've always been a tabletop gaming person. I'm a huge fan of miniatures in general, of role-playing games, board games. The other place I could have done this interview is downstairs in my dining room, where my wife and I have a huge wall of board games.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was the kind of the introduction, and then over time, it became kind of a question of Chris wanting to make games again. But it really started from us playing Warhammer, playing RPGs together, playing Dungeons and Dragons at the club, and just being nerds. It was great.
Nice.
You mentioned the name there, Chris. Who's Chris?
So Chris is Chris Metzen. So he was the VP of, I guess, story and franchise. I have to go read his description that I put on our blog for Blizzard Entertainment. So he was one of the kind of creative visionaries behind what became World of Warcraft, Overwatch, StarCraft, things like that. He has more Warhammer armies than anyone I know. And he had retired about 5 years ago from Blizzard and just kind of stepped away from the video game industry, stepped away from the gaming industry, and this is his first thing he's done since. This is he has turned his hobby into his new career. So
That's amazing.
It is epic. Yeah, it feels good. It feels like it's kind of a dream come true, I think, for every tabletop fan. Both in terms of like, I want to work in tabletop, and in terms of, this project that we're working on and we're going to talk about today is literally a translation of his like post high school, pre-Blizzard Dungeons and Dragons campaign when he was playing AD&D. So it's super exciting. It's been a super fun journey to bring it to life and make it feel modern, and kind of beat up all the things to make it feel like a full world, a full book for that anybody can enjoy. But yeah, so that's me. So I worked at Blizzard. I worked on before that I worked on a Marvel video game called Marvel Heroes, which was an online game. I've done on the side. I've worked on a game called HeroClix, which I'm a huge fan of, and I've played for.
So I'm just laughing here because we found this as a symptom of folks who come and join us on stream, and what they do is they go, "Oh, I did a little thing called Hearthstone," or we independently and ethically source our coffee beans and roast them ourselves.
Yeah, all these little things are like, oh yeah, that's what you do, isn't it? Or we're sat there going, Mills, you and I are slacking.
Yeah, but it's just the general way, like the way folks are just generally nice about it, and it's not like you're going, hey, I did this epic thing. It's just
wow, it was so great.
It's genuinely lovely and welcoming. Like, I don't know whether you've heard of this thing, but I was part of this, and it's really nice. It'd be lovely if you come and look at it.
That's amazing. Although I do have to ask, are you for the Horde? Or are you a filthy Alliance player?
I'm wearing Horde pajama pants right now.
Excellent.
So I cannot easily show them to you, but I'm wearing Horde pajama pants.
That's amazing.
Always and forever for the Horde. Ever since 2005.
Yeah, entirely with you, brother.
I gravitate always back to orcs. So Chris plays Thrall. He's the voice of Thrall. And I before I worked on Hearthstone at Blizzard. I worked on a game called Heroes of the Storm, which is like the MOBA. We call it that now. They changed. There's a whole thing. But my most played character in that game is Thrall, and that was before I really knew Chris. Yeah. Now it's very awkward to play Thrall. It's just playing Chris. So
that's wicked.
But yeah.
So when you got to Warchief as the sort of gaming group, and you sat down, you mentioned you played some RPGs and that kind of stuff. Is that where you got your first taste of Ouroborus?
It was. What was it? It's a pretty fun story. So Mike and Chris had been working together on kind of this idea that maybe Warchief will be something more than a gaming club. And I wasn't actively playing in the RPG campaign at that time that was going on at Warchief. There was this awesome campaign by a guy named Nick, who also ended up working with us on Ouroborus, where him and 2 other DMs were running this kind of living world, where like people could rotate in and everybody had a role in it, and they kept track of all the different things, and there was like an actual job board in the club where you could see what had gone, like if there were quests to do. So it was amazing, and so that got Chris and Mike really fired up about RPGs, and Chris really thinking about what they might want to do, and we had gone on a trip to a Warhammer tournament actually with Chris and Mike. So they're the 2 co-founders, and we were staying, and they kind of pitched like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this project. Would you," and Atesh, the person who got me into the club, would you guys be interested in helping us do this? Like, we think we want you to help. Which was awesome, which was like, oh my gosh, like what a huge honor. This is incredible. Absolutely, let's do this. So for Chris, it was like, this is like a story that has sat with him for basically 30 years, because he started it in the 80s technically, and he just felt that this had to be the first project, no matter what. Like he started kind of in RPGs. He calls it church. He calls D&D church, and that, like, for him, it's going back to the very beginning of like his gaming identity. So it has a lot of meaning to him and to us to treat with reverence. And so that was kind of how it all exploded out of like, let's do this. Let's start making this world. And going through all of his old notes, he wrote huge documents comprised of his old notes. He had drawn all of his maps. He had scanned in a bunch of his old art. And so it was just, let's start filling this world out, creating this universe.
Yeah.
So did you kind of divide it up between everybody? Like, you know, that we're skipping ahead now because I'm fascinated by like
it's fine. It's good.
He's kind of, because it's the dream, right? Like, everybody's got their own wonderful homebrew or this wonderful campaign you've played in, and now you're actually getting down to put it into legible paper notes and that kind of stuff. Because I've got books up there on a shelf that if I tried to make legible, everybody would look at me and be like, what does next page green mean, Millie?
Yeah.
What is that? What happened there?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. It's something I've actually thought about a lot recently, reading people's comments about it, of like, oh, like, I'm glad that nobody could see my high school my high school D&D homebrew, which I guess this is technically post high school for him. So yes, we acted as a team. We split up. There were 3 of us at first. So it's Nick and Atesh, who I had mentioned before, and myself, and then Chris. And we had we would split up. The first big project was cities. So Ouroborus is, it's a fantasy setting, and trade cities are these massive kind of urbanized cities. Like, so Sargrad is the capital, and it has like a shipbuild, like a factory district. Like, there's an industrial district. So it's not steampunk. It's still Dungeons and Dragons, but there's a bit more modernity, a little more industrial revolution. Yeah, you can see. So on the map, Sargrad would be like right on the coast, I think, in the left side. I can just barely make it out on my screen.
Yeah, it's a bit small for us.
It's a bit
for folks at home.
Yeah, it'll be better for folks at home. So yeah, this map is by Francesca Bayrald, who's amazing. She's an Italian artist, and she does it with pencil, ink, and watercolors, and it's incredible.
I was going to say, it has that proper old world feel to it. I thought, but actually doing it in the original material, that's wonderful. It is beautiful.
Yeah, she's incredible. So she translated Chris's maps basically, and she's doing all of our city maps as well. So we started with those trade cities, and that we each had an assignment with the notes. He would give us a bunch of notes. We'd go through as a meeting and as a team. We'd come up with like what we kind of wanted to see from it. Maybe just coming up with cool ideas. Like, all right, that's a lot of awesome notes. What if we also did this? What if there was a meatpacking district in Sargrad, and that was tied to this vampire mafia somehow? And so we got to like kind of really riff on those together. I think like as a culture coming from Blizzard, we all really thrive on what we call jamming. It's kind of and Chris always refers to it as being like a band. Like everybody's kind of playing their part, and you're here a part. You run with it for a while. So that was our first biggest. That's how we really started. And then we would take them home and spend a week or two filling it out, like coming up with awesome character ideas and hooks and things like that. Then bring it back to Chris. He would kind of mold it and shape it back into what he saw as the world, but with our voices. And so and what that allowed us to do is have a kind of like modernity, have a bit of different perspectives, right? So it is absolutely his world, but it has some fresh takes and some fresh ideas that I think people are going to really enjoy.
It's massively collaborative as well. That whole brainstorming, and then being able to have the visions together, and then going back and making more of it sort of individually, and then bringing it back in again. That's an incredible way to be able to grow a thing. That's marvelous.
Yeah, it was super exciting, and like Chris's original campaign, right? It wasn't just him. It was, there were 6 players, of course, total, and he would trade DMing with another player and things like that. Oh, wow. So even that was collaborative to begin with, and so I think it's really important to us to keep that spirit of collaboration, and because that's what makes all of this work. That's what makes D&D work. That's what makes every great role playing experience is not always just what the DM came up with, but with what the group came up with. Yeah, no different for any game design, by the way. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Nobody ever has all the right ideas.
Shall we take a moment to show, because we've getting excited and ahead of myself with this, because I've been looking at the Kickstarter, I've been watching the videos and looking at all the art, and it all looks phenomenal. Should we show folks your Kickstarter video?
Let's do it.
Let's have a look at this. Those names.
That's tremendous, isn't it?
Well, you gotta credit your artist, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Wow.
It's super important to us to make sure to kind of be a good voice for that kind of thing in the industry. Yes. Make sure that we're putting our foot forward to take care of the people who help make this real.
So it's a whole campaign setting for 5e, like new races, new subclasses, whole sandbox to play in.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there like a gentle sort of introduction to it, or is it one of those like en media res, let's go kind of situations?
We so it is really important to us that So I'm hyper aware of like the of user experience, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, I come from games like Hearthstone where user experience is everything.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we can only put so many words on a card because after a certain point your eyes glaze over in the middle of your turn. Uh,
Yeah.
and that's not good. So
Yeah.
that kind of stuff was really important to us. So I'm constant. We're always thinking about that. And whereas Chris is also always thinking of, he wants everything to be in there and to be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the way we've done that is the first section of the book. It's like 100. I don't even want to guess right now. It's 100. It's well over 100 pages. Is I was gonna check, but it's that way lies madness.
Yeah.
Opening a giant PDF in the middle of a call. Bad idea. Bad idea. It's just in details about the world. It has history dating back hundreds of years in the world, what happened in the previous age, which was actually one of Chris's other campaigns,
Mm.
which we haven't talked too much about of what the story of that was, but we'll get to that. We'll get there eventually. Uh, so it has tons of history. It has details about every city in the world, all the 11 different factions, the races. It also will have details of how the standard kind of races you might expect to see in these settings, what they're like here. But in addition to that, because you know that's a lot to read,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it's hard to sometimes turn that into an adventure, into
Mm-hmm.
a campaign. We have an adventure section of the book where we've gone through by each city and faction, as well as like outlying things and landscapes and things like that, and
Mm.
kind of given just tons and tons of content of like adventure themes you could create, examples of little kind of one or two session quests and things like that. Characters, how each faction behaves, what they wear, how they dress, and that's really all for the GM to kind of be able to take that in more as data, and like it's very
Mm.
flavorful. Even if you're not planning to run a campaign, you just want to read about the world. There's tons of stuff in there of like, oh, this is all really exciting, and it's written. But it was really important to us that I'm overwhelmed by how much awesomeness is in this book. How can I start an adventure? Here's
Yeah.
where you go. There's tons of stuff. You just roll a dice, and start an adventure right now, and it could be exciting. Pick your favorite looking faction that you want your players to fight, or to team up with if that is your goal. And here's a bunch of different ways you can interact with them.
And that's tremendous because there seems to be, it's such a visual resource, not just from glorious artwork from a whole pile of talented artists, but also from a content point of view. All of the things that you put in there. I mean, this sort of thing, even just looking through it and thinking, oh well, you know what, these are some ideas that you've got, but also here's this amazing picture. Who are those guys? What do they do? How can they interact with my party? What is it that they
Right.
would want? It's that kind of, you look at it and think, who's that? It's almost like people watching in a fantasy world, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Everybody wants to know about the Salamar, right? Everybody wants to know what those cute little lizard, that the little gecko race is. Uh, but yeah, no, absolutely. There's so much to take in when going through these books and new settings.
Mm,
And there's kind of two minds about how to launch a setting like this. There's just launch an adventure, and we'll launch more like what we've done, which is a world book.
yeah.
We as part of the Kickstarter, we kind of unlocked a starter adventure, so it'll have pre-made characters. You can jump right in. Just want to feel out the world, see what it's like. Here's an adventure to play with characters already made, and
Yeah.
it'll be like a free PDF. Uh, but yeah, like the other way to go is a full adventure,
Mm.
and just looking down kind of what that looked like as a
Folks, I think my
project.
laptop has just crashed.
Oh
Oh,
no.
are we stopped?
I don't know. Give it a moment. Let's see.
Oh.
Has the
Oh.
stream died?
Green screen. There we go.
It might be back.
Oof! There we go. Remember those drivers I was talking about earlier? Had
Oh,
to
there you
kick
go.
in. Had to kick in. Do apologise. But we were talking about beginning a campaign, like the different styles of starting, and how maybe we'd have an introductory adventure or a world and that kind of thing.
Right, right. So there's kind of we went the world book route. It'll have an introductory adventure, but it's mostly playing in and creating in this world, versus some choose the route of here's a giant adventure, kind of figure the world out through this. And I love those. I you can play through them and they're incredible. There's some amazing examples from across all the different franchises. But I think for us it was really important to establish who we are, what Lawbrand is, what Ouroboros is, in the setting and things like that, and allow people. It'll maybe do an adventure next, like maybe that's what comes later, things like that. Uh, so yeah, it was, we're kind of aware that we're having a different take than some others, and we've definitely gotten a lot of feedback like, give us an adventure. Uh, so that last image there that you had shown,
This one.
yes, so this one is called The Serpent Devours. So Ouroboros, the core theme that I'd kick myself if I didn't touch on, is this mark of the serpent. Her arm, on her, I guess, right arm, but it's the left of the panel of the kind of main character there, is kind of glowing, and it's this tattoo that you can see there in this image as well that's being given to this character. And so it is this, or the Ouroboros itself is kind of the life and death of the world. It's kind of a world serpent of sorts. And magic kind of stems from it. And so there are these sigilists in the world that can give you these magical tattoos that are called sigils. But there's one called the Mark of the Serpent that allows you to tap into this energy. And this is essentially an entirely new system wherein you can gain power to shatter mountains or heal the sick or do all kinds of number of things. But it kind of tears you down. It kind of actually has physical cost to you in your character, and there's a thing of detriments, and kind of takes you down a ride that you don't often see in these kind of games. And there's a lot to it. So this is kind of one of the big overarching themes of kind of like dealing with power, coping with power. So in this case, she's kind of losing it, losing control in the middle of her party. And there's that awesome little Salamar gecko man on the left who everybody loves.
Yes, everyone's faces is just complete shock. Someone in the chat is like, the chap on the right is almost breaking the fourth wall, looking at us, going, "Oh,
I got nothing. Like, what is going on here?" Yeah. So that's one of the big overarching themes. More than a world, there's kind of a concept at play here, and we feel that concept was such that like we wanted to give it its own chapter, and it has a chapter in the heroes section and in the adventure section. We want to give lots of support for GMs for it. Something we've heard is like, oh, well, does that mean only one person can be Frodo, essentially? And Chris wrote a blog on our site talking about how that is not the case. One, everybody could have it. It's crazy, but everybody could have it. It happened in one of Chris's campaigns. But there's also something we have called the Marksworn, where, or what he kind of is like the Samwise quotient, where everybody kind of has their own lift in this. So even if one person carries this burden with them, everyone has a part in it, and that comes with abilities, and it comes with things you can do. And so it's a very it's not something I would typically have ever thought to do in an RPG, like this kind of scary, maybe it's too strong, maybe it's not. We focus it really narratively. We don't want you casting super mega fireballs in battle. It's not really the point of it. It's kind of more about like, hey, you broke that whole bridge, and they can't chase us anymore. That's storytelling. That lets you do things. It unlocks,
and it's also the character development consequence, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's like phenomenal cosmic power. Well, traditionally comes with itty bitty living space, because otherwise you take over the universe, right? Whereas if that's not where you're going, then you're kind of like the grumpy Sith who's actually doesn't know there, and then all goes a bit wrong.
And then what will your friends think of that? What will your friends?
Yeah.
And
Good
what if your friends
intentions
are? And what if
maybe the road to the hells?
Yeah, and what if your friends are going through the same journey with you? What if you're all experiencing it, or what if one other is with you? What if,
Yeah.
yeah? So we try to give players and GMs lots of tools to kind of make that work for them,
Yeah.
because we recognize that it's not going to work at every table,
Hmm.
and we want to give people lots of ways to help make it work. But
Yeah.
also, like, if you just want to play a campaign in Lawbrand of Ouroboros without it, that's there for you too. There's tons and tons of content. The book doesn't have overly lean on it, which is, important to us because when you if we made an adventure, it probably would have to. Otherwise, it would be hard to sell this kind of thing
Hmm.
Yeah.
without doing it.
No, I think it's pretty good. It'd be nice to kind of start an adventure without it involved, and then as you get to be bigger, and then now what do we?
Yeah.
How do we deal with this? This isn't what I signed up for. Oh
Yeah.
no!
Absolutely, and it's something you discover. It would not. Maybe you could make a character that starts with it, but it's typically something that you would lead them to, that they could experience on their own. And as a DM, you kind of get to know your group over X amount of sessions, so you can kind of determine when it's the right time.
Yeah, I would definitely. Oh, see, I've been looking at this a lot, and I would either have them all established, and it's a nice session, blah blah blah, and they do a something, and it doesn't quite go where they want, and that kind of everybody blacks out, and it's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, everyone wakes up, and it's like, yeah, seem to have got yourself some unique there, people.
So,
Like,
so
what?
that's
It's like,
that's a super cool way to do it. Yeah.
oh, it's like, yeah, now, because there'll be loads of people like, yes, this is brilliant, and there'll be others like, don't want this. Just
I don't want
how do
this at
we get
all.
rid of this? We
Yeah,
just,
that's
yeah,
awesome. That's brilliant. That's
I
a
think
really
this,
cool conceit for a campaign. I really like that idea. Yeah, that I love that about it. I love that it inspired like a really clever way to introduce it. And that's what we're hoping for. That we
mm,
hope that is that kind of, it is a weighty thing that you can choose how to give it, if to give it, who to give it, all
yeah,
these things. People can choose to take it upon themselves or not.
yes,
And that's what it's all about. That's what role playing is all about, is these
mm,
kind of heavy decisions.
Hmm.
But also slaying monsters and getting loot. That's also good.
yes, yeah,
We have
booty
lots
down
of that too. Don't worry.
the. Ah,
So
I
this,
love this world. It's wicked.
so we're on Kickstarter right now with this, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
There we go. We can have a quick look there. We're what? Wow, 23 days to go and super funded there.
Yeah,
So
it went pretty well so far. Kind of beyond our
Ah,
wildest dreams.
that is usually classic British understatement. So bravo, dear boy. It's gone rather well,
Yeah.
swimmingly.
Yeah, it really has. Like ultimately, like we all come from. I have what 11 years of experience in the video game industry. They have much more, 20 to 30,
Yeah,
for the two of them. So I think we all, people expected it to do well, but I think it's hard. It's important to remember, like, there's three of us. We're working with awesome other people. We credited as many as we could on the page at the very bottom, but
mm,
we're ultimately a three-person company. So this level of success is still exciting and still very awesome and uh, very uplifting. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So yeah, so it has gone quite well. It is awesome because I was like looking very closely because I hadn't really thought about what it would be in pounds.
mm.
Because it's
Yes, no,
obviously a
it's
very different
impressive.
number.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, no, it's an amazing ride. I can't believe we have 23 days to go and we're already where we are.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's beautiful.
uh,
It looks not only glorious design, but like all of the resources and things. It's good quality. Sorry, it's very tactile person. So I like how
yeah,
tactile that looks. And it's, yeah, really, really
yeah.
cool.
That kind of parchment, like feeling, and like feeling like stone or parchment. Those
Yeah.
kind of things are important to the designer Mark and I. That like when you look at it, it feels like something in the world.
Yes.
Uh, I appreciate someone notices.
Bless you. It's good, but Millie and I have basically been trolling through this quite a lot, going it's like need this.
It's
these Twitch streams are expensive, I'm telling you.
definitely expensive.
You guys come like,
You was mentioning that so that we can see some of the STLs you've unlocked. Like, are you designing those minis yourselves? You got someone on the team who can do those?
Yeah, so we hire. We're working with. His name is Ed Crane. He's an awesome. He was a character artist at Blizzard. He just moved on to another studio, but we had, and he's a member of the club. So all of this really comes out of the fact that mostly we're all just a bunch of people who want to play games and roll dice together. And it turns out we have a bunch of very talented friends who also do that. So he's designing the miniatures for us. They're based on the Alex Horley art, which the collection 2 and the bonus packet are just concept art right now. So we're designing those. They'll be pre-supported. So if you have a 3D printer, makes it a lot easier if you're not familiar with it, because supporting it yourself is a skill, and it's not one that I'm particularly good at yet, which is why that guy broke, because I totally messed it up. And there's a pre-supported one now, so the next one I print will not break. So that it's just about accessibility. Making miniatures as part of this Kickstarter is it turns out takes a really long time if you want to do that and have a factory print you a bunch of awesome miniatures. So but we are, as gamers and people who have miniatures all over our desks, felt it was really important to at least give people the option. I'm sure they will not be the last miniatures, and I'm sure it won't be the last form that they take. But it was the one we could do for right now and kind of get out into the world, because we think it's important, because we are dorks.
That's tremendous.
I'm proud to admit that. Like, we're dorks. Yeah, we're dorks.
Yeah, we just want to paint cool miniatures of our stuff.
Yeah.
What a dream to be able to have something that you help create and be able to print it and paint it and see other people someday. That's
actually hold it in your hand, kind of thing.
Yeah, and the idea of that someday in the next X amount of months between now and when we deliver all of that, people will be seeing on Twitter people's versions of these characters and stuff. That's very exciting. That's something I really look forward to.
That's tremendous. That's not a bad segue, actually. How do we keep in touch with you guys and find out what's going on?
Our Kickstarter's live. That's a really good place right now, because that's where I'm putting all of my energy. Although right now I'm putting all my energy into staying awake because it's not even 5 a.m. So Twitter is our Twitter is just at Warchief. It's super easy. We're on Facebook, where it's Warchief Gaming Inc. Is the little shorthand you can use, or you can just look up Warchief Gaming. Those are kind of our two main ones, and then warchiefgaming.com is our last one there, where we have a newsletter and things like that, and we'll post blogs. Those are kind of the main channels. We have others, but those are the ones I focus the most time on keeping updated and making sure that there's always something cool to see there.
And the Kickstarter is live until, let's double check here, the 22nd of May. So you've got
22nd of May for you. Yes,
yeah.
I had to. You scared me when you said that, but yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, so 2 a.m. British summertime, 22nd of May. Which time zones may vary. So go visit the website, go visit the Kickstarter page, which will give you a more accurate, localized version.
It'll end on the Friday/Saturday, depending on where you are.
And there's already 6,922 folks who've.
That number keeps going up. It's crazy.
It does.
It went up just a moment ago while we were live, while we were still showing it. So I'm wondering, pointing on the other screen because that's where chat is on my thing.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if somebody in chat is like, oh yes, I'll head over there. Yeah.
There's a couple of folks popped and went, I've backed these guys, and they're kind of here specifically to listen to you as well, which is awesome. So thank you.
Hopefully I didn't embarrass myself too much. Yeah.
No, it's been wonderful chatting with you, Ryan. It's been great.
Yeah,
this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I might stay up and watch the rest of the show because maybe.
Well, we didn't arrange that, but we are speaking with the folks from Cubicle 7.
That's why I want to stay up, because it seems they do awesome stuff. So I want to give them props. Like, obviously, I'm a Warhammer fan, so I'm into what they're into.
Do you
what
get
they're
to
up
play
to.
Wrath and Glory or Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay or anything as well?
I just picked up Soulbound. It's called Soulbound, right? The Age of Sigmar. I just picked it up. I haven't even read it yet because this has all been happening.
Yes.
But I really want to play Wrath and Glory as well, and I own that somewhere.
Yeah.
It's some one of these shelves somewhere. I haven't had a lot of time to play role-playing games outside of our own stuff in the last year, but I'm very, very excited. They do awesome stuff, so I'm probably going to stick around and watch that, or at least catch the video on demand.
Yeah.
So yeah, super exciting.
Yes.
That's tremendous.
Like I said, it's been a genuine delight chatting with you. Again, another wonderful, lovely guest who is incredibly humble about their amazing things they've done and their absolutely awesome Kickstarters. Like, it's just a game that we started, and now we've worked together with a bunch of amazing people and created something absolutely fabulous. And look at these 6,000 people who also agree with us. Look,
it wasn't even that hard. It wasn't. No, I'm just kidding. It was a ton of work. It was a ton of work. I'm just kidding. Don't let people believe that it wasn't hard. It was very hard.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
We are going to take a quick break. I need to refill a coffee cup. Ryan, I think, needs some coffee as well.
Or sleep. Which one?
One
I
or
can't
the other.
decide.
But like I said, we'll be back with the folks from Cubicle 7 shortly. Thanks for sticking around, folks.